Okay, I want to talk about corn. Weird topic, I know, but it seeps into your life way more than you think. Do you know how many things corn is in? It's legitimately in everything. In fact, why am I even here telling you? I can just show you. Okay, here you go. 7 versions of corn in each one of these. There's Eggos, frozen waffles. They all have dextrose, which is a sugar made from corn. You've got canned fruits. While I was editing, I realized this section goes on for way too long. I think you get the point. All these items have processed corn, so I'm just gonna fast forward and we're so to 25% of our diet of our items in the grocery store have corn. Crazy. So yeah, there are some 45,000 items in the average American supermarket, and more than a quarter of them, contain corn. Over there I said 25%, but it's actually more than 25%. And so what? We've got corn and everything. Why is that even so bad? Why does that matter? I would have wondered the same thing before I found myself investigating this rabbit hole of a topic, but let me tell you, it's pretty terrible. It's made the animals we depend on for food more sick. It's hurting the American farmer while helping massive corporations. It's contributing to the weakening of our very much needed antibiotics, and it's partly causing an obesity epidemic disproportionately affecting the lower class. So yeah, if you told past me that I should make a story about corn, I would have smacked you, but here we are, learning about the corn industry. And for good reason. This important story has snuck under the radar of most people, and bringing more attention to it could affect the lives of millions of people for the better. So without further ado, let's talk about some corn. So let's check out something that I find absolutely mind-boggling. Can you guess what this chart describes? Percent of people watching this video that are subscribed? Must be, right? Because you're subscribed, yeah? No, these bar charts describe the amount of animal feed from oats, barley, sorghum, and can you guess what the last one is? That's right, no, just kidding, it's corn. Obviously it's corn. Look at how much of that corn is produced in comparison to the other 3. Nobody would really notice if you tossed out sorghum and barley and everything else. So how did we get to the point where all of the feed for our animals is corn? Well, to answer that question, I have to bring you up to speed with a century of jam-packed agricultural history, which I bet you I can do in under a minute. Ready? Let's go. So farms are chugging along the same way they always have. Plant some grass and the cows go, hey, that's some pretty tasty looking grass you got over there. Cows do some chomping and eventually poop that grass out. Wow, look at that, you've got nitrogen in that poop. We can use that in fertilizer and grow the crop used to feed our population. But wait, says Fritz Haber, a German chemist from the early 20th century, that process takes forever. What if we just made our own nitrogen for fertilization so you could sell more crops and make more money? Well, heck yeah, say the farmers. Let's put that on everything we freaking grow. All of a sudden, corns over here are really liking that stuff. If I just keep planting more corn, I could really make some money. And the US government is like, heck yeah, let's do that and sell all the corn to the poor countries and get even richer ourselves. But then all of a sudden, every farmer is like, yes, no more other crops, only corn. And the US government is like, whoa, whoa, whoa. That's going to drive the price down because basic economics. But, you know, that was kind of our fault, so we'll just keep giving you money to continue producing corn and we'll figure out something to do with all the excess. One of the things that we realized we could do with this insane amount of corn that we were producing is to make it into animal feed. Animal feed that costs less to make, animal feed that doesn't rely on that long natural process of growing grass and grazing the cows and everything that we talked about. Essentially, we just turned cows into the humans from WALL-E. Cows could be crowded into smaller spaces, food could be shoveled down their throat, only instead of picking a variety of smoothie flavors like they do in WALL-E, well, cows just get one type of smoothie, and that is corn every single day. Meanwhile, other countries like Argentina, Australia, and Japan are looking at us like, what are you doing to beef? Why are you messing with the formula? We've done it this way for thousands of years. But America is loving it. Beef sales skyrocketing, corn sales skyrocketing, beef is making its way on the runway, it's fashionable, it's cool, it's the new hot thing, and of course this is when the burger becomes some sort of symbol for America itself. I mean, the whole stereotype that Americans sit around and eat burgers all day could really just be corn's fault, because corn-fed beef became the reigning champion of meat for many, many years. And can you really blame them, these farmers? Part of American culture was and still is doing things differently than the rest of the world. This whole very individualistic process of thinking that we can separate ourselves and try things on our own. Even though Argentina and Japan and all these other countries are complaining. We're like, no, we're gonna do it our way. Which back then usually meant industrializing, making things as efficient as possible. And it did have its positives. It helped support the massive population growth around the world. We began exporting this corn and beef, most importantly, to China. If we had continued raising only grass-fed cows, the population boom in China probably wouldn't have happened. There just wouldn't be a system efficient enough to support the need for food. China possibly would have starved. And I wish we could end this story there on a happy note, but unfortunately not. See, the problems of this system are bubbling to the surface. And it all basically comes down to the fact that cows aren't made to consume corn. It's like taking millions of koalas and going, you're not gonna eat eucalyptus anymore. We can't grow eucalyptus super quickly, so from now on you're eating arugula. Some of you may die, but that is a sacrifice that I'm willing to make. And that's exactly what happened. Cows started to get sick, and many died a horrible, painful death. And that's because cow stomachs are much different than ours. Cows have a much more complex digestive process, actually involving 4 stomachs. But most importantly, cow stomachs don't digest food with stomach acid like ours do. Their stomach pH is neutral, which means that when you take corn, a substance that has an acidic pH, and you shove a bunch of it down a cow's throat, well, you're messing with the biology of that cow. For a cow, having a pH imbalance means lots of gas and a better environment for bacteria to grow in. And as you can imagine, a cow sick with a bacterial infection does not produce the best meat, to say the least. So, in order to prevent this from happening, ranchers inject cows with antibiotics. Which is gross enough, knowing that you're now eating this cow that's on the verge of infection, stuffed with antibiotics, meaning you are now being stuffed with antibiotics as well. But what's worse is that this is diminishing the potency of our antibiotics.
Many animals are given antibiotics to kill as many bacteria as possible and prevent them from getting sick, because a cheeseburger has to cost $1. Unsurprisingly, as a result of this system, we have created more and more bacteria that are resistant to antibiotics.
And if that wasn't bad enough, corn-fed beef is significantly worse for the environment. Lots of natural gas for the fertilizer used to grow corn, diesel to fuel the tractors that manage the cornfields, more diesel to fuel the freight trucks that transport the corn from farm to cow, trucks again that transport the cow to your plate. Okay, this sounds pretty bad, but we can fix this easy peasy, right? We'll just figure out a way to make the grass-fed beef system a little more efficient and more people will begin to use it, right? Well, I don't know if you've ever heard of America, but that's not exactly how things work around here. We've got these things called corporations, and they tend to have a little bit of influence on how things go down. Just a little. Here, let me just show you. All right, I don't know about you, but when I think of a culture with a corn diet, I think of the descendants of the Mayans in Mexico, right? The ancient Mayans literally had a god of corn, like that was his whole domain, was just growing corn, which would kind of suck. Because out of all the gods, you got Thor over here throwing lightning bolts, and you're over here on your field growing corn. But anyway, corn has been a staple of their diet for thousands of years. But nowadays, it's no longer Mexicans that should have a corn god, it's Americans. Because this meal, if you can call it that, is so much corn. In fact, Todd Dawson, a biologist at Berkeley, ran the numbers, and are you ready for this? McDonald's, a soda from McDonald's is 100% corn. It's basically just corn syrup. If you get a milkshake from McDonald's, it's 78%. If you get a cheeseburger from McDonald's, like this one here, it's 56%. And if you get the lovely chicken nuggets, that is 52% corn. As we saw earlier, the list of companies using highly processed corn does not stop at McDonald's. If we have that many big companies relying on processed corn, there's no way that the massive corn manufacturing plant that is the United States will be slowing down anytime soon. The US government actually guarantees that corn production will only go up in the years to come by continuing to provide subsidies for corn farmers based on the amount of kernels they produce. And the corn farming business has slim margins as it is. If they want to make a living, they are forced to continuously push for even more yield. It's the only way that they can make money. If any politicians try to go up against these big corn companies, well, they better be ready for one hell of a fight. I can only imagine the strings that Coca-Cola and McDonald's could pull on Capitol Hill. In reality, the conversation probably goes something like this. Hey, so for this new bill, would you rather support the citizens of our country or take another couple million from food companies that give our citizens cancer? And follow-up question, would you want the new Ferrari in red or black?
Red.
So we're left on our own for this one once again, a battle that millions of Americans face on a daily basis, all to answer the simple question, what should I eat? Obviously, we're making some wrong decisions along the way. Since 1970, an American's daily intake of calories has jumped by 23%, almost a quarter more food in a single day. And America isn't even alone in this battle. We've actually gotten to the point where there are a significant amount of people suffering from overnutrition rather than hunger and malnutrition, with 1.9 billion people versus 800 million people. I was making fun of the cows for being turned into the WALL-E humans, but we're well on our way just as quickly. In all seriousness though, I shouldn't make fun of the people making these decisions. We are facing a very serious epidemic, and it's often not even their fault. It's the system, it's the environment. This is actually a case of history repeating itself. In the early 1800s, America found itself in its first public health crisis from drinking. People were drinking way too much. In 1820, the typical American was putting away half a pint of whiskey per day. Can you guess what kind of whiskey? Corn whiskey. Just like today, farmers were producing way too much corn. They found it was easy and profitable to take the excess and distill it into whiskey. With a bigger and bigger supply of whiskey, lower and lower shot the price of the drink, nudging people into alcoholism. And the same thing is happening today, but with food instead of alcohol. And you may say, whoa, 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 alcohol is a serious addictive drug. Can you really compare processed corn to alcohol? Well, yes, you completely can. And that's because the evolution of our human body turned corn into a drug. And when we didn't have food at our disposal, our bodies learned to encourage you to eat whatever gave you the most energy. The winner of that battle was sugar. And sugar's new cousin on the block, high fructose corn syrup, is even better at it. So when this low-cost, ultra-processed chemical is pumped into our food, it quickly tricks our body into craving more. An addictive cycle that usually disproportionately affects the lower class. Since corn syrup and other processed corn is used as a way to cut corners and make food as cheap as possible, you find the people trying to save money most affected by this unforgiving system. But it doesn't have to stay this way. I hope this video has opened your eyes to the crazy world of corn, and I hope it gives you some perspective to how important this decision is. The decision we make every day, what should I eat? And just like the drinking epidemic of the 19th century, this won't change overnight. It will take awareness and interest from a massive amount of people. So if you found this video informative, I ask that you share this with someone who might be interested in understanding what's really going on with our food system. One person at a time, we can move closer towards a future where we don't have to choose between harmful chemicals and actual food. That's all I've got for you today. Thank you so much for watching all the way to the end, and I'll see you in a few. Bye-bye.